class is debate class. The students are preparing for a tournament that they will go to at the end of November to qualify for regionals and ultimately to state. And what they do is they are given a resolution or a proposition about a month beforehand that is supplied by Oklahoma Secondary School Activity Association, and they research that proposition and they write a case that is about 4 minutes long on the pro side of that proposition and a case on the con side of that proposition, because they will debate at any tournament, they'll debate both sides of a proposition.
Observation. People can choose whether to use or not to use the new technologies. Technology and intellectual property. An individual can simply choose whether or not to use the technology. If they do, there may well be significant benefits associated with its use insofar as the technology can counter psychological biases that otherwise might blind an individual from the consequences of their actions. Contention 1. The Internet of Things boosts the U.S. economy. Adam Thierer of Journal of Law and Economy, February 18, 2015. The benefits associated with these developments could be enormous. McKinsey Global Institute researchers estimate the potential economic impact of Internet of Things to be $2.7 trillion to $6.2 trillion per year by 2025. And IDC estimates that this market will grow at a compound annual growth rate of 7.9% between now and 2020. To reach $8.9 trillion, Cisco Analysis estimate that Internet of Things will create $14.4 trillion in value between 2013 and 2022. Many other analysts and consultancies have predicted similar growth and economic impacts and agree with Michael Mandel, Chief Economic Strategist at the Progressive Policy Institute, who argues that the positive effects could reverberate through the economy. Mandel believes that we are at the next stage of the Internet revolution and that the Internet of Everything has the potential to help revive the high-growth economy. Kurt Wimmer, Corporate Legal Times, May 2015, says the Internet of Things, the massive network of devices, sensors, and other objects that connect and transmit information between each other and through the Internet, is poised to reshape how we think about the world, including our healthcare, transportation, energy consumption, shopping habits, and homes. By 2017, research firm IDC expects the Internet of Things market to reach $7.3 trillion, and analysts predict that by 2020 there could be anywhere between 25 billion to 75 billion devices connected to the Internet of Things. Impact. The Internet of Things is necessary in gaining revenue and paying back debt in the United States. Every year the Internet brings in more and more money. This is skyrocketing our high-growth economy. The number of devices connected to the Internet of Things is growing exponentially. People use the Internet of Things even though they know the danger that it poses for their privacy. This proves that these benefits far outweigh the harms of decreased privacy. Without the Internet of Things, our nation would be nowhere near as successful as we are and will be in the future. Contention 2. Data encryption minimizes privacy harms. Warrant. Adam Thierer of Journal of Law and Technology, February 18, 2015, says, as Jaron Sheldon and Vasseur conclude, privacy can be protected on the Internet of Things. Today, privacy on the rest of the Internet is safeguarded through cryptography, and it works. Recent mass thefts of personal information have happened because firms fail to encrypt their customers' data, not because the hackers broke through strong protections. By extending cryptography down to the level of individual devices, the owners of those devices would gain a new kind of control over their personal information. An example of a company not encrypting their data and their data being stolen is the Wall Street Journal says the health insurer Anthem didn't encrypt their data in theft. Because the data wasn't encrypted, it could be easily readable by hackers. The company believes a hacker group used a stolen employee password to access the database. Impact. The data encryption for most all devices helps increase personal privacy. With the growing technology we have these days, people can encrypt even their phones so that no one can steal or access any of their private information. Things like data encryption take almost all the harms of decreased privacy away. Many people use the Internet of Things even though they know that there are harmful breaches of privacy. With data encryption, the benefits of the Internet of Things are drastically increased while the harms are greatly decreased. For these reasons, we stand for the resolution.
Opponents ready?
Yes.
Resolved, on balance, the benefit of the Internet of Things outweigh the harms of decreased personal privacy. My partner and I stand opposed to this resolution on the grounds that the collection of large amounts of data from devices such as those that make up the Internet of Things and the destruction of personal privacy associated with such data collection outweighs the benefit of the Internet of Things, and that this destruction of privacy is alone enough to outweigh the benefits of the Internet of Things. According to the Federal Trade Commission, the Internet of Things refers to the ability of everyday objects connected to the Internet and to send and receive data. According to .aim.org, the privacy is defined as the right of a person to control access to his or her personal information. Contention 1. The Internet of Things eliminates privacy, and the data collected by the Internet of Things cannot be kept out of the hands of third-party organizations. Internet service providers, which include AT&T and Verizon, have large amounts of data come to them through the devices running on their plans. These same companies that receive data from all your devices keep data from between 1 to 7 years. Many different organizations, specifically the NSA, extensively monitor data in the possession of private companies without the consent of the consumer. The NSA also monitors information on social media, information about your Wi-Fi network, and virtually everything connected to the internet, already through programs such as Prism and XKeyscore. If it can be plugged in and connects to the internet, then the NSA knows all about it. The government is also working with at least one provider of the internet and cellular service. This all means that it is connected to the internet. If it is connected to the internet, then you will have no privacy regarding the Internet of Things devices. And the data collected by these devices may come into the hands of organizations that you do not want to have your information. Contention 2. Americans believe that in order to prevent the reduction of privacy, it is worth losing the benefits of the Internet of Things. According to Pew Research, though 47% of those surveyed were not confident that they understood how their information will be used, adults who were aware of the NSA surveillance programs were more likely to avoid the use of Internet of Things devices and certain apps. In another study, 54% of those surveyed found it acceptable trade-off of privacy for safety to install security cameras. When asked a similar question about a smart thermostat that would save them money, only 27% found that acceptable, and 55% of the people surveyed adamantly opposed the thermostat. Finally, through the FTC has said regarding the Internet of Things that there is a great potential for innovation in this area, and that Internet of Things specific legislation at this stage would be premature because it would discourage innovation. Still, 68% of the American people who believe that current laws are not doing enough to protect their privacy, according to PewResearch.org. The more Americans know about how programs such as those in Contention 1 eliminate privacy, the more likely they are to forego the benefits of the Internet of Things in their favor of their privacy, even against the advice of the FTC. This means that according to Americans, Contention 1 is on its own enough to outweigh all the benefits of the Internet of Things. Contention 3. Personal privacy is essential to protecting freedom. The President's Review Group on Intelligence and Communications Technology, which was created by President Obama in 2013 to determine how, in light of advancements in communications technologies, the United States can employ its technical collection capabilities in a manner that optimally protects our national security and advances our foreign policy while respecting our commitment to privacy and civil liberties. Recognizing our need to maintain the public trust and reducing the risk of unauthorized disclosure, the review group said in their report that personal privacy is essential to liberty and the pursuit of happiness, and it is necessary to ensure that all our citizens may live in a free and decent society. Government agencies, apart from the NSA, admitting that privacy is necessary to our liberties shows that the destruction... Okay. Would you like the first question?
You can have it.
Okay. What was the... you stated some statistics in Contention 1. What were those?
Which ones? We have multiple.
Statistics. Your first statistics about how it would boost the U.S. economy?
McKinsey Global Institute researchers estimate the potential economic impact of the Internet of Things to be $2.7 trillion to $6.2 trillion per year by 2025. And then it says the market will grow at a compound annual rate of 7.9% between now and 2020 to reach $8.9 trillion per year. That's the revenue gained by the Internet of Things.
Thank you.
In your contention 2, you stated that privacy alone can stand alone and is all that's needed to outweigh the benefits of the Internet of Things. Where are you getting that from? Like, how? Is there a survey that you guys have, or how many people are saying that they believe that their privacy is all that's needed, or they prefer their privacy over all the benefits of the?
Restate the question again.
Like, where are you getting that privacy is all that's needed? Like, privacy is more important than the benefits of the Internet of Things.
It was from the Pew Research Center, those who are more likely to have changed at least one of their behaviors include the people who have heard a lot about government surveillance. 38% say that they have changed a great deal somewhat in at least one of these activities. Those who are at least somewhat concerned about the programs, 41 have changed at least one activity. And those who are concerned about government monitoring their use of social media, search engines, cell phones, apps, and email. There are no partisan differences when it comes to those who have changed their use of various technologies. So that came from Pew Research Center.
Okay. May I have another question?
Yeah, go ahead.
You guys talked about how our data is given to the government. What evidence do you have for that?
It was
that AT&T sends data to the government.
It was stated in our first contention that many different organizations. It was from. We have multiple sources. Would you like a specific one?
Just whatever one was in your first contention.
Okay. We had aclu.org, wnyc.org, abcnews.go, rt.com, npr.org, theguardian.com, and also the Washington Post were our sources.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about government using our data, but they never say how exactly they're taking away our privacy. From what they said is that the government is taking large amounts of data from companies like what was it, AT&T. But if they can do it legally, how is that a bad thing? From what I've heard, that the information the government uses from the data collected is to spot out terrorists and to protect us. That's not a bad thing that they're taking our data. And every time they do take away our data, it's from companies we've already signed off our privacy to. Every time we sign a terms of agreement card or paper, we essentially give up some of our privacy in exchange for the benefits that they offer. And so that whole point is, it's not. And they also said that that the government is stealing our data, and I think what they're trying to say is that our data is it's too easily accessible to third parties. But if you have data encryption, like we've said in our second contention, it's virtually impossible to steal information. Therefore, you are protected and your privacy remains intact, but your benefits are still there. And like I've said before, the benefits are huge. Research from IDC says that the Internet of Things is expected to add in trillions of dollars to our economy. Trillions of dollars is a lot. Lots of money we can use for things like education and building our infrastructure, combating terrorism and protecting our students, and paying back the debt of about $20 trillion. And so the Internet of Things brings us a lot of goods in exchange for virtually no harms, because and those harms that do come about is it's not really substantial or significant. And every time you use the Internet of Things, you do have to sign terms of agreements, which you essentially give up your privacy in exchange for all the good benefits that the Internet of Things brings about. And again, the government taking our data, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It's not like they haven't been doing it before. We have census research where they collect data of like how many people are in the U.S. and this isn't really a bad thing. And information that's already out there, is it really private at all? When you agree to use a service like AT&T, you are making a call through their lines, and so whatever you give to them, it's theirs and yours. And the government has a legal obligation to protect us if. And we have multiple benefits, but they only have one, and privacy isn't enough. The Internet of Things helps our economy. It helps grow our future and helps us prosper.
On a Friday night, we go on Friday night, we leave school about noon, and we start the debate about 3:30 at some high school around the state, usually in the Oklahoma City or Tulsa area. And they'll do 3 or 4 rounds on Friday night. And every time they go to a new round, they flip a coin to decide if they are going to be on the pro side or the con side. So it's just moments before they speak that they find out what side they're going to be on. So it's kind of exciting and intimidating.
First off, I'd like to attack their case. They observe that people have a choice and they can choose whether or not to use it. I agree with their observation. People do have a choice. And according to Pew Research, people who know about these surveillance programs choose not to use the Internet of Things because of the security risks or perceived security risks. So yes, people have a choice, but people who know are choosing not to. And as information becomes more widely available and more people figure out, more people will choose not to. So I agree with that observation. I would like to point out that thing. And their second contention, or their first contention, I mean, the internet boosts the economy. And they bring up how the internet, it's going to grow and it's going to continue growing and it's going to give us a bunch of money and such, which I can't disprove that it'll give us money, but they say that that it's going to continue to grow at the end. They said that it's going to continue to grow because people are realizing that these privacy issues aren't that big and are choosing to use the Internet of Things. And as our evidence from the Pew Research Center has pointed out, the people who do know are not choosing to use the Internet of Things. They're actually avoiding the Internet of Things. And so I would like to disqualify their argument on the basis that it's not going to continue growing. This market's not going to continue to grow as people learn more, because as people learn more, it's actually going to shrink. So the projections that they have there based on people continuing to buy them because they know the risks, I would like to say that it won't grow like that. Then on their data encryption, they say that if you encrypt your data, it's completely safe. But according to Pew Research, 86% of internet users, they're already doing stuff with their data. And of these people, the ones who know, they're just avoiding anyways. So yeah, people are encrypting, but the ones who know, they don't even want to encrypt. They're just avoiding it altogether. So the people who know things, who know about these surveillance programs, they're not just going to be like, oh, I'm going to encrypt. They're just going to avoid it entirely, which the Pew Research data proves. And then I would also like to point out that encryption is not unbreakable. Quantum computing is appearing on the map now, along with more impressive algorithms that these quantum computers they'll be able to break the codes that we have, unless you're using unbreakable codes, which we have none of yet. So I would like to point that out. And then going back over our case, the surveillance, I'd like to clarify on that. When you sign your service agreements with the companies, it goes to the companies, and the service agreement is, okay, my information is private, but the company can see it. So it's not private in regards to the company. But what the government has done is they have passed laws that go against the things like the Fourth Amendment, which say, oh, you have to have search and seizure to view private information, and they just take the data from the companies. They take it from everywhere. They can take it from anywhere in the world. And we've got about a dozen sources that say that they can do that. We know all this from the Snowden leaks. So I just want to point that out, that the surveillance, it is an issue. And for all these reasons, you should vote con. Would you like the first question?
Yes, I would. Do you have any evidence of the encryptions being broken?
Quantum computing?
Yes.
Do I need to prove that quantum computers exist?
Can you prove that it's happened before?
That it's happened before?
Yeah, if you're arguing something like this, shouldn't you at least have something to back it up with?
The quantum computers, it was from npr.org.
And quantum computers have
That quantum
broken.
computers, once they show up, will break the codes.
Once they show up, but they've never done this before, so.
They are working on quantum computers as we speak. The quantum
And are we
computers
not working on security as well?
So they're what?
Are we not also working on security as?
The quantum computers, though, that they're working on, while they're not widespread, once they do become, once they're done with them, they will work so quickly that no codes that we currently have will be able to stop them, which is why quantum computers are kind of an issue for privacy. And so that's why I brought up the existence of quantum computers, because according to NPR, there's nothing that we have that will stop them. It was the ASFR, that's the algorithms that we mostly use, and that's it's one where it's different on the sending end and the receiving end. It's unencrypted and encrypted differently, and that's the one that we mostly use right now. And it'll be broken in like minutes by these quantum computers, whereas right now we're kind of can it break it? It'll take a long time. These quantum computers could do it almost instantly.
And is that all just speculation?
No, it's math. Because the quantum computers, they'll be able to work. They can work faster, and so right now, what would take normal computers years to solve would take these quantum computers minutes, just because they can work faster. So these quantum computers, it's not speculation. It's just once we've finished making it, once we've got it, then it'll be that fast. And they think that these, according to NPR, it'll be in just a couple of years we'll have these quantum computers. And so we'll have to come up with new algorithms, or else these quantum computers will be able to just destroy everything that we have, all our security. So can I ask a question now?
Yes,
So how do you reconcile that your data encryption isn't protecting it isn't going to be protecting anybody in a couple of years when you've projected all these mass use of the data of the Internet of Things? In a couple of years you say, it's going to have all this money from it, but in a couple of years you're also going to have quantum computers destroying all the protections. So how do you reconcile that?
Well, in a couple of years, a lot of things will change, obviously. And so as we go on into the near future, we will have better technology, which includes better security. And
so you're saying that even though there's no evidence to suggest right now that our privacy will increase, I'm just trying to clarify what you're saying. Are you saying that since there's no evidence to suggest right now that our privacy, these security measures will increase, but we have evidence of quantum computing, and you say that more of us are going to use the Internet of Things, even though that's against the pure research? Are you saying that even though there's no evidence for it, that it's going to happen? Is that what you're saying?
I didn't really hear the question.
Do you have evidence to say that to support the claim that our privacy will increase? Because I've evidenced my npr.org. They say that it won't be able to keep up with the quantum computing.
Oh, not as of the moment, no.
You don't?
No.
Okay.
Opponent ready? Judges ready? In their first and second contention, they stress the issue of privacy is enough to. The privacy is enough, and it outweighs the multiple benefits that we have in our case, whereas they only have one harm, and they're saying that is enough to outweigh and to destroy all of the benefits that we see on a daily basis. People, they talked about how even though people know about encryption, they aren't encrypting, and that's just merely because of that's just merely a choice, and they're not they don't take the measures to encrypt their data because they don't care about their privacy being their minimal amount of privacy being breached. And they talk about how the government takes our privacy, but they don't really explain what they do with, or they take our data, but they don't really explain what they do with the data, because most thing they use the data that they take for is they use it to survey the country and to since 9/11 they've used data to make sure no one is using radical beliefs and furthering the danger to our country. They talk about also how they talk about quantum computing again in the Crossfire. They talked about quantum computing. They said that they're going to have quantum computing in a few years, but our society is always evolving, and there's always going to be more and better, as there's better computers for cracking the encryptions, there's going to be better security measures. In our second contention, it says that privacy can be protected on the Internet of Things and by cryptography. What? Okay.
Ready? Okay, so they were talking about they were attacking our case, and they were saying that data encryption can protect our privacy. Well, as my partner said, quantum computers are being made. There's evidence to back that up. And you also stated that that we don't have evidence that the government is taking our data. Well, it doesn't matter why they're taking our data, they are, and that violates our privacy, which in turn violates our Fourth Amendment right. We signed, you're saying that we have consent, or we're giving consent to companies, and then that in turn goes to the government. Well, our service agreements are with the company and not actually with the government. The government takes that data from the company without our knowing or consent. Is that time?
Would y'all like the first question?
No, you can go ahead.
Okay. You said that people just don't care or whatever, but we've presented evidence to say people do, the people who know do care, and that they just don't choose to use it. Do you have evidence to support your claim that people don't care about these harms to their privacy, and that they use it even?
Well, the majority of people are using the Internet of Things, so that obviously is evidence enough that says they don't care. If the majority of people in the world are using the Internet of Things, I mean, I use the Internet of Things, and most everyone here in this school uses the Internet of Things, and in this nation, and so that should be evidence enough that there's a majority of people that use the Internet of Things versus the minority that is against the Internet of Things because they think the privacy harms outweigh the benefits.
But it's not just because they're weighing this. It's because to try to clarify what question I was asking. They said that they choose not to if they're informed. Like almost across the board, they're much more likely. So if they're informed and they almost always choose to not go with the Internet of Things and instead go with privacy, do you have any evidence to support, like, to counter that? Because people are, of course, everybody's going to know about this. So when everybody knows about it, do you have any evidence to say that they will still choose the Internet of Things?
Well, the benefits that it, they see the benefits every day that it has in our economy and for gaining revenue, and once they find out that, once they're informed, like you're saying, on their privacy issues, they can also be informed on the encryption of the data that will take away the privacy issues. So if they're worried about the privacy issues, if the sole benefits aren't enough to convince them, then they have an option for taking away the privacy issues.
So are you saying that you don't have anything to directly counter that? To evidence a survey of some sort, anything that says people who are informed still choose the benefits?
We're saying that if people really cared about their privacy, they would take the measures to seek a way to protect it. And since they really haven't, they don't really care.
Okay, you can
The benefits are better than losing their privacy.
You can have a question.
You guys talk about how the government is taking data from private carriers, but you don't really say how they're using that data. How do they use that data to? Because if they just have the data and it's not affecting anyone, they just have it in their database, then how? Because they do use it, but they use it for protection of our country and eliminating threats like 9/11 that happened. And because if we didn't have data that, phone calls that were going back and forth between the terrorists and things like that, but they don't just use everyday people's data just to look into see what Nick is, surfing up on the internet. They don't have the time, and they don't need that. They use it for protection of our country.
Okay. First off, you say, what are they using it for? You said they're mostly using it for good things. It doesn't matter what they're using it for if it violates our Fourth Amendment rights, which it does because we haven't given up this information. It's still private. We sign the service contract. We say, okay, it's private information. Only the company's going to see it. Only people we're sending it to is going to see it. And the government comes in and they take it anyways. It doesn't matter what they're using it for if it violates our rights.
Well,
so can I finish answering the question? Okay. And then the second part of your question is it was like they're not going to take it from just any random person, but our evidence suggests that they're taking it from everybody. They've got massive data banks and it's got everything. They can pull up anything. They can pull up if it's on your laptop, they can get into your laptop. They can see that too.
Yeah,
so
yeah. But they're not. But if you don't have if you're not threatening the nation, then they don't have no need for pulling your data up. If you're not threatening the well-being of the millions of other Americans in the country, then they don't have a need for pulling.
But to answer your question, they still are doing it, and because they are doing it, no matter what the reason, it still violates your privacy. It's violating everybody's privacy. So that's to answer your question.
But
we're out of time.
The type of debate that you're going to see is called public forum debate, and that resolution changes every month. So, for example, we will go to another tournament on December 2nd and 3rd, and they only got that information about that topic about the middle of November. So not only were they preparing for the November topic, but they also had to start preparing for the December topic. So we meet class every day, so they work in class every day, and then they have to do some outside work. But they spend anywhere from a few weeks to a month on each topic.
Every time you use a company's service, and a company like AT&T, like for example, is the data that they have, isn't it? When you say to AT&T, I want to use your service so I can call somebody else, or I can just text somebody somewhere half across the world, and then they say, yeah, but just so you know, this information is being stored in our servers. And they say, and you say, yeah, well, okay, you sign a terms of agreement service. That data isn't just yours now, it's also the company's. It's also AT&T's, Verizon's, and T-Mobile's. And whatever they want to use with that data, they can use for whatever they want. And if they want to give it to the government so that they can protect our people and our interests, then what are you to say to stop it? Because it's their data too. You consented to that as soon as you signed that terms of agreement. And with that makes your point invalid, because the data isn't just yours, it's also theirs. And since it's also theirs, they get to use it however they please, even without your consent. They don't need your consent because this data also belongs to them, and they want to use it this way. And you agree to that. You agree that they get to use it however they want. and they are giving it to you. And so also the benefits that we're talking about aren't really, they're not small. These benefits are huge. Trillions of dollars in added revenue is an amazing thing. And as we've said, like for the examples, we can build back up our infrastructure and invest more into our education, more into the future of our children through the revenue made.
I'd like to go back over the points I think we're winning. Our first contention was that the government is violating our privacy through these surveillance programs. And we said that our privacy, we sign service agreements and such, and these go to the company, but then the government takes it from the company or just from you. And by doing that, they're violating your Fourth Amendment, they're violating your privacy, and they were never really able to go against that. They said, oh, they're using it for good, but it doesn't matter if you're using it for good or not, they're still violating your privacy. And then our second contention, that people choose not to use it, they said that, oh, the people are going to continue to use it and it's going to grow and such. But as we showed and we provided evidence that as the people who do know, though they're in a minority right now, the people who do know about these surveillance programs, they choose not to use the Internet of Things. And as this information becomes more widely available, the number of people who are knowing about it and choosing not to will grow. So they were never able to defeat our second contention either. On our third contention, they completely dropped our third contention. So that passed through and we just won that straight off. And then I'd now like to go over the things I think we beat them in. The data encryption, their second contention, they brought up data encryption and that you're completely safe. We brought up quantum computing, how we sourced it from NPR. NPR says that quantum computing is going to show up in a couple of years at the same time that they say that it's going to be spreading all this Internet of Things business. And what we said, according to NPR, quantum computing, you won't be able to stop it. And they had no evidence that to rebuttal that, to say that we will be able to stop it. So as that lays right now, you won't be able to stop it. And your encryption won't work by the time that people are using the Internet of Things. So for all these reasons, you should vote con.
Debate is one component that we do at these competitive speech tournaments. There's a whole nother drama component. There are acting events and there are speaking events. What Maggie is going to present is called prose. Prose is, first of all, it's unique because you do get to use the script. There are only 2 events where you use a script, prose and poetry. And you use the script, hopefully to your advantage. It's kind of like an interpretive reading. And so it's a little bit like reader's theater. They can't move other than their arms and their head, facial expressions, but they can't walk around. And it can be humorous or dramatic. And prose is for 9th and 10th grade only, and then poetry is for juniors and seniors only. So you kind of get your age group. Those are the only things that are defined by age group, though. All the other acting events, anybody can do. You can have a partner. You do scenes from plays. And it's really fun for the kids who like to do drama stuff.
Dear child, I hid at the park. Even now, from the dark void of time out where I was left to think about what I did, I can't say with any sincerity that I am sorry. I know you'll agree with me when I say that life as a toddler in a world clearly built for people 4 times our size is a long series of size-induced frustrations. Desks that are too high, ledges just out of reach, chairs that, when you attempt to push them, snag on a rug, leaving you condemned to amusement purgatory. Inches that may as well be miles away from the treasure trove that is the junk drawer. Structural prejudices are everywhere. I tell you all of this so that you will understand that what happened today was not personal. Crimes of passion are complicated. When I work with pre-Kers, I always tell them, Sharing is caring. Do I repeat it 70 times? Yes. Do they listen? No. Well, here's their side of the story. Dear Child I Hid at the Park by Bun Me Latatan. This morning, as I ran toward the park gate, my heart felt about ready to burst with joy. Nothing and no one could ruin this day. Well, no one except you, that is. Noting an empty swing, we left my sand toys on a bench. It's amazing how the simplest of decisions can alter your destiny. The swing was fun, as always. Air whooshed past my ears and through the thin fabric of my cotton Circo shirt. Giving up the swing for another child was easy today. As we walked over to the sandbox, I imagined a detailed blueprint that I would call forth with my plastic dollar store tools. And then I saw you. Blue and white pinstripe overalls, like a convict. Your ensemble was fittingly poetic. Foreshadowing brought to you by Carter's. You sat, legs splayed in the sand, holding my shovel. Holding my shovel? He's holding my shovel! While my visual cortex easily processed this scene, my frontal lobe rejected it, rearranging the information. He's holding my shovel. My shovel he's holding. He's holding my shovel. That is my shovel and he's holding it. Our eyes met and you picked up my telepathic communication and you responded, my mom said I could. Your face was blank, emotionless. That's my shovel, I messaged back. My mom said I could. I broke into an immediate sprint in your direction. Maybe I let out a battle cry or said something aloud. I can't remember. But my mother was alerted before I could reach you, and my feet began to lift like an airplane slowly taking off. My eyes remained fixed on you, however, digging in the pliable sand, still moist from the morning rain, and held form easily, just how I like it. My mom chuckled at something your mother said, and I looked up, still being held like a newspaper under her arm. We're still learning about sharing. Sharing? Surely she is joking. I mean, it's utterly confounding how possessive adults are about their own belongings, but preach about communal property without even a twinge of guilt over their blatant hypocrisy. Sharing, this coming from a woman whose road antics only minutes prior would imply that the right lane is emblazoned with her initials. My feet touched the ground and she crouched close to my face. As soon as I heard her tone, I stopped listening. It was the pitch that I hated the most. Calm, but decidedly loud. She was speaking to all of the parents within earshot, not to me. A self-serving speech plucked from the pages of parenting websites and peppered with hollow assurances. Okay, we're going to let our friend? I don't see any friends. Okay, we're going to let our friend play with our shovel for a little bit, and then we'll trade. Everybody will have fun together. She smiled and waited. For what? Applause? A tip? Knowing all eyes were on me, I forced myself to walk calmly over to you and sat a toddler's length away. If parallel play is what they want, then parallel play is what I shall give them. I fixed my gaze on you. Uncomfortable? Well, then go on. Play. Go on. Play. Go on. Go on. Play. I messaged you over and over. And you responded, I will. And you continued. This is fun. You relaxed and began to mock me with your overly enthusiastic digs. You let out a happy shriek and your mother clapped. Mine even smiled. Brutus in a dress. I may have growled because she shot me a warning glare. And you went on. I like your shovel. Your shovel is fun. 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 Your shovel is so fun. And then you said it. The words that cracked my physique and landed me in the gulf of punishment that I now type from. Thank you for sharing. You weren't expecting me. Perhaps you thought that my mother's presence would keep you safe. Your face froze in abject terror as I tackled you. Sand flew as our limbs and feet scurried. The last thing I remember is how your cheeks rippled as my hands made contact. No, we don't hit. While my mother is usually quick to forgive my transgressions against humanity, the ones against her ego tend to linger. Say you're sorry right now. Absolutely not. Say you are sorry. She held onto my arm with a firm grip. Looking down, I muttered, "Apple saucy," and we were both whisked away. All that was left at the crime scene was a small indentation in the sand where your head had fallen, and a solitary toddler sock that had been left behind in the rush. Our mothers were both talking to us as they walked briskly. Yours sang gentle apologies, promises of warm chocolate milk and cookies. Mine, tight-lipped, clenched teeth reprimands, promises of a report to the family and to Santa. Dear child I hid at the park, I learned something today. Life isn't fair. Life isn't just. However, I will serve my time with dignity, knowing that I prevailed over your tyranny. Years from now, I'll think back to the shock in your eyes as I rain justice on your face, and maybe one day I'll be sorry. But today is not that day. Today I regret nothing. Apple saucy, my dear friend. Apple saucy.